Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into the myth of Medusa.
Such an endearing figure.
You've shared a fascinating stack of sources. They seem to cover everything from ancient geography, different interpretations, archetypes, and that really complex relationship with Athena.
Absolutely. And our mission, I guess, is to pull out the most important bits, look at the different views in the material, and maybe understand why she's still so, well, relevant today.
Sounds good. So where do we start? The traditional myth, maybe?
Yeah, the baseline. One of the three Gorgons, daughter of sea gods, mortal. The snakes for hair, the stony gaze, we all sort of know that version.
Right, and Perseus, with Athena's help, takes her head. Pegasus and 𝐽𝐴 pop out.
And Perseus gives the head to Athena for her shield, the 𝐴𝐺𝑠, an apotropaic device, they call it, meant to ward off evil.
But it didn't stay that simple, did it? The myth evolved.
Not at all. Early art, definitely monstrous. But later you get writers like Ovid. Yeah. Suddenly she's this beautiful maiden, a priestess, violated by Poseidon in Athena's temple, and then cursed.
Which really shows how myths change, how they become vehicles for different themes.
Exactly. They adapt. They comment on social issues.
And one consistent thread seems to be her location. The sources keep placing the Gorgons way out west, often in North Africa, ancient Libya, basically.
That link is strong. You have Hesiod putting them at the edge of night. Herodotus flat out says Perseus brought the head from Libya. Later Romans, like Ovid and Lucan, keep that North African connection.
There's even Palavattus linking her father Phorcys to gold-rich Ethiopians.
Yeah, which could hint at, well, maybe how ancient Greeks viewed or othered these distant resource-rich lands. Maybe some economic or colonial undertones there.
This geographical link naturally brings up the Black Athena theory your sources mention.
Right, the work of Martin Bernal. He proposed that Greek culture had significant roots in Afroasiatic cultures, Egypt, Phoenicia, challenging the sort of purely European Aryan model.
He pointed to things like language links, ancient writers acknowledging Eastern influence.
He did. But it's really important to note, his thesis faced, well, a lot of academic criticism. It's largely rejected by mainstream scholarship.
Why's that?
Critics point to a lack of archaeological proof for colonization, issues with how he handled linguistic data. It was seen as pretty speculative by many.
So, while controversial history?
The debate itself is interesting. It shows how looking at history gets tangled up with current ideas about identity, culture, and pushing back against Eurocentric views. We're just reporting what the sources say about this debate, of course.
Understood. Beyond history, though, there are symbolic links proposed with Egyptian goddesses, like Neith and Wadjet.
Yes, that's another fascinating layer. Herodotus actually identified Athena with Neith, an Egyptian creator and death goddess, known as Athena in Libya. Seeing Neith's face meant death, much like Medusa's gaze.
And Wadjet,
the cobra goddess, fierce protector, snake imagery. Snakes symbolize that duality, life and death, poison and healing.
So the interpretation is maybe older female deities being transformed or demonized by the Greek pantheon. Medusa as Athena's shadow.
That's one way to read it. A powerful female figure possibly suppressed or altered.
This idea of transformation ties into looking at her through archetypes, like the maiden, mother, crone idea.
It does. Even though that's a more modern concept, popularized by Robert Graves, it offers a lens. Ovid's Medusa starts as a maiden, right? A priestess. Sources specifically mention maiden energy.
And the violation and curse become this traumatic disruption.
A terrible loss of innocence. Some read it as bypassing the nurturing mother stage entirely, straight into this hardened, protective, enraged state. A powerful symbol of female rage. Absolutely.
And what about that detail? That there's supposedly no recorded instances of Medusa turning a woman to stone. That her gaze didn't affect women.
That is such a striking point in some interpretations. It completely reframes her. Maybe not just a monster, but a protector. Directing her power specifically against male aggression. A refusal, perhaps, to never be raped again, as one source puts it.
That's a powerful modern reclaiming. Very different from, say, Freud's take.
Oh, yes. Freud saw the decapitation as castration terror, which, points more to male anxieties about female power and sexuality. Uncontained power born from injustice.
Let's talk about Athena. Their relationship is central, but complex. Athena helps Perseus, gets the head.
Yeah, and that act itself is often seen as Athena complicit in dehumanizing Medusa, turning her into an object, a weapon on the 𝐫𝐵𝐺𝑠. The patriarchal order, maybe? Harnessing or neutralizing that raw female power?
But could they have been linked before that? Maybe even the same entity originally?
There are theories, yeah. An age-long theory, they were two sides of the same coin, or one deity that split. These often link back to ideas about pre-Greek, maybe matriarchal goddess cultures. Athena herself had snake connections in Athens.
But these are speculative.
Highly speculative. Based on inference, fragmented evidence. Your sources correctly note some are dismissed as poor anthropology. We just can't know for sure. But exploring these ideas helps us think about how goddess figures might have changed over time.
It also loops back to that shadow side idea, especially with Ovid's version. Athena punishes Medusa, the victim, not Poseidon.
Exactly. Rita's internalized misogyny or maybe envy, male writers shaping the narrative perhaps, showing how even powerful female figures can conform to patriarchal interests, suppressing parts of themselves. Medusa becomes the rage Athena disowns.
Which brings us to today, contemporary reinterpretations, especially from African and Black creators.
Yes, this is really exciting. It's seen as decolonization and intersectional feminist intervention. You had critiques of Garbati's White Medusa statue highlighting representation issues.
And now.
You've got Ayanna Gray's upcoming novel, I, Medusa, with a young, queer, Black protagonist. Letitia Cai, the Ivorian artist, sculpting her hair into snakes, linking the myth to how society punishes victims. Coffee Davis's memoir, Medusa, using the image to explore trauma and resilience in Black life.
These feel like powerful acts of reclaiming the narrative.
Absolutely. Challenging older appropriations, giving Medusa agency, using her to talk about race, violence, empowerment from different perspectives. It shows the myth is still incredibly alive.
So wrapping this up, Medusa is so much more than just the monster.
Far more complex, potential African roots, Egyptian links, a symbol of disrupted archetypes, a figure of rage and protection, deeply tied to Athena.
Her story keeps getting reread, reinterpreted. It seems her power lies in being this mirror, reflecting ancient fears about female power, but also modern struggles for justice, understanding trauma, reclaiming identity.
And that adaptability, that's the power of myth itself, isn't it? How these ancient stories keep speaking to new generations, new concerns.
Which leads us to a really interesting thought. If Medusa's image has shifted so much, been reclaimed in so many ways across thousands of years in different cultures, how do we decide which versions of these ancient stories we choose to carry forward today? And maybe more importantly, why? Something for you to think about.